Hello everybody. Now I've already done a video on how to make this dark roux, which you see here, what I call a black roux. And I've turned it off because I didn't want it to keep cooking, but it does keep cooking because it's in a Dutch oven. And as I showed you before, there are the different phases, and this is the final phase. And so I'm going to put it right here. And you see there isn't much difference, just a tad bit darker. And now we're going to turn on our stove and we're going to start adding the base of our gumbo, which is, we're going to start with the vegetables, then I'm going to add the sausages. The last thing I'll put into my shrimp gumbo is the shrimp, but just follow along with me. It moves rather quickly. We want our roux to be really hot. You can see it's very dark. Now, you don't want this on a high heat because the Dutch oven is already hot. So you want this sort of on a medium-low heat, and we're going to add our vegetables. Now, the recipe for this shrimp gumbo is going to be below the video. We're going to start with our onions. And I'm just adding carefully, I'm adding about a cup of onion. And then I'm going to add about a cup of green onion. Only a half a cup of celery. And then a cup of green bell peppers. Now let me tell you a little bit about bell peppers. You can add the red sweet bell peppers, the orange, the yellow, whatever you like. I happen to have just the green on hand, but I have used the others. Just make sure they are sweet bell peppers. And you're going to look at this and you're going to think, oh my goodness, Denay, you're burning it. I am not. The flavor that's going to come from this gumbo and from this roux is going to be amazing. And we're just going to let it, I'm turning it up a little bit, we're just going to let it cook. And what you're going to find is that your vegetables are going to weep. So the water in the vegetables, it's going to come out, and it gives it a gloss. And we're just going to let this cook. Now you'll notice I added my vegetables first because they sort of take the longest to cook. And you just want to toss them around so that, and you'll know, I don't know if you paid attention, but everything was chopped small, the same size. And I do that because I want everything to cook evenly. Now I'm going to add my smoked sausage, and this is skinless kielbasa. You can use whatever smoked sausage you like. And I'm only going to use maybe about a cup, maybe a little less. I'm going to add just a little bit of, this is just boiled cooked ham, just boiled ham. And I just want a little bit for flavor, about 1/4 of a cup, not a lot. And last, I'm going to add, this is my andouille sausage. And I'll post below the type of andouille I like, but you select whatever andouille you like for your seafood, for your shrimp gumbo. And that's about, I guess, about a cup. And we're just going to keep stirring and cooking and stirring and cooking. And I'm going to show you what I like to do is I like to cut my sausage sometimes in halves and rounds, so folks never know what they're going to get. And I just like to have fun with it. That's it. And if you noticed, your roux didn't change. It's still rich and chocolate. Now it's dark chocolate. Now we're letting this just cook on a, I want to say, a medium high heat. You don't walk away from your gumbo. Not ever. Not ever. You've got to hang with it, because I'm going to tell you something. It's really easy to walk away, get on the phone, get on your phone, get on your computer, and you don't want this to burn at all. Now that this is cooking, I'm going to add my herbs and my spices, all my seasoning. And I'm going to turn this down a bit, and I'm going to start with 2 bay leaves. And this is a teaspoon of basil. This is a half a teaspoon of oregano. And I don't have, this is about a little over a half a teaspoon, almost a teaspoon of ground thyme. I didn't have the thyme leaves, so I'm using the ground thyme. And it really doesn't matter. This is a heaping teaspoon of dry mustard, heaping teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin. This is a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I'm not putting it all in. I'm just going to put in just a little bit, and I'm going to save a little to the side. A teaspoon of black pepper, not putting it, well, I'll put it all in, and then a teaspoon of the white pepper. And what I'm going to do is mix all of this together. And then I'm going to bring this up, not to a boil, but I want it to start bubbling. Because now I'm going to add my chicken. And you're going to think, oh, you're adding chicken to this too? Yes, I am. I want everything in this shrimp gumbo. Shrimp is going to be the primary flavor. But I like a little chicken in mine, and I'm not going to put in much. And I'm just going to add, I want to say it's cubed, and these are chicken thighs, and I'm just going to add probably a cup. And it's going to cook really fast, because remember, this Dutch oven is hot. I call this Cajun napalm. This roux, this mixture is extremely hot. You don't want to get it on your fingers, on your hands at all. And we're just going to let this cook until the chicken is white, opaque, it's cooked through. And it won't take long. Now, gumbo really doesn't take a long time to make. Really, the biggest part of making this gumbo is chopping all the vegetables. And of course, your sausages and ham and chicken. Now, do you see the chicken is cooking? It's cooking through, and it's going to be amazing. The flavors are blending. The roux is coating every vegetable and every piece of sausage or chicken, every piece of meat. And now we are going to add our stock. Now, this is a shrimp gumbo. I've made a shrimp stock. If you, or shrimp, stock. If you're interested in learning how to make a shrimp stock, would you post below and say, yeah, I'd like a video on making shrimp stock. Now, I'm using both chicken and shrimp stock in this gumbo, but I could use all shrimp and I could use all chicken. It really wouldn't change anything. So let's start with adding just about, I want to say, a little less than 16 ounces of chicken stock. And this is bought chicken stock. I didn't make it from scratch. And that's about 16 ounces. And if you notice, look at that. When we start to talk about a black roux, that is what you want. And I've turned my heat up because I want to keep this boiling. Now I'm going to add my shrimp stock. And just so you can see it, the shrimp stock was made from shrimp shells, and I just boiled them and boiled them down to get the pure essence. It doesn't give you a whole lot. And this is from about 2 pounds of shrimp, and I'm going to add it to the gumbo. I'm not going to add it all. I'm going to add most of it. And we are going to, wow. Boy, this is rich. And the color is rich. And I want to bring my gumbo back up to a boil. It's going to take a minute. And once I bring it back up to a boil, I'm going to add my okra. Now, I use frozen okra. There are a number of different philosophies. Some people say, oh, well, the okra gets too slimy. I don't know, for some reason, my okra, when I add frozen okra, I add it frozen, it doesn't get slimy. If you're worried about the sliminess of okra, you can always put it in a pan, frozen or fresh, and saute it with some butter. And that alleviates that sliminess. But, you know, it just depends on what you like. For me, I'm going to add, I believe this is a 15-ounce bag of cut okra, and we're going to add that to our pot, and that's going to fill our pot up. But don't worry, it's going to reduce as we cook it. And this okra, this gumbo, I'm going to cook for, I want to say about 35 to 45 minutes after I get everything in there, because I want to make sure that it's heated through. And the very last thing I'm going to add is going to be the shrimp. And you know that shrimp don't take long to cook at all, about 2 minutes. And so I'll add those, and then our gumbo will be finished. The last thing, we'll sprinkle in some gumbo filé, which gives the gumbo that distinctive flavor. And you've got a huge pot of shrimp gumbo that will serve anywhere from 8 to 10 people. Okay, 4 to 6 if it's people that absolutely love gumbo. Now you see my gumbo is it's coming to a boil. Now I forgot to add my garlic, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put in about a teaspoon of garlic and about a teaspoon of parsley. And you're going to think, oh, that raw garlic, it's not going to be you're going to taste it. You absolutely are not, because this is going to cook through. And we are going to add our okra. And just so you'll see, it's right there. It's just frozen okra. And I think I'm gonna add, not all of it, about 3/4 of the bag. Oh yeah. And I'm going to add just a little bit more of the shrimp stock. And then I'm going to put this on medium heat, and I'm going to let it simmer for about 35 minutes. And you can cover it. I'm going to take my the lid to my Dutch oven here, and I'm just going to put this over it, and I'm going to let my gumbo simmer. All right, well, we're back. I am preparing some rice to go with our gumbo, and I'm going to add the shrimp. And this gumbo has been just simmering. You can see now the okra is cooked. It's breaking apart. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you want to see. And I'm just going to add my shrimp. And these are the 4150. So these are not really large, but I have 2 pounds I'm not going to use all 2 pounds. I don't think all 2 pounds would go in here, but I am going to add them and let them cook. Remember, the shrimp only take about a couple minutes. And please remember, you can add whatever seafood you like to this gumbo. I think that's about all I'm going to put in there for right now. And we're going to turn it up and let it start. And you're going to see already they're starting to turn pink. And if you noticed, I didn't put any salt in the gumbo. And I didn't do that because shrimp are salty. They have a lot of salt in them. And I don't want to salt this gumbo until I'm ready to serve it, right before serving. And so I've turned it up. We're gonna let it boil, come back up to a boil. I am going to add the rest of my cayenne pepper because I did taste it. I've got a little bit of salt here that I'll add in a moment. And I've got my gumbo filé. And I want to say something about this gumbo filé. Now, this is not sponsored. I use Zatarain's. Use whatever gumbo filé you want. But what I want you to be aware of is, let's see if I can find it on here. And I don't know if it's on here, but yeah, it's pure native sassafras leaves. Now, what I want to say about gumbo filé, there are some brands that are cut with thyme, T-H-Y-M-E, with that herb. Don't buy it, please. It will ruin your gumbo. It gives it an off flavor, and I don't know. Well, they cut it. We know why they cut it. They cut it because they're not using pure sassafras leaves. It's probably less expensive, but this particular gumbo filé, it lasts you forever because you're not using that much. You're not going to use more than a half a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon to a big, large Dutch oven of gumbo. And you can always put this on the table and people can add it to their gumbo, you know, when they sit down to get ready to eat. And as you can see, our shrimp, and I like these smaller shrimp. I know some folks want to put the big jumbo shrimp in, but what happens is you get several shrimp in your bowl when you have the 4150s. And that's just the size of the shrimp, how they're sold. But don't you just love that rich color? And you see the chicken, the okra. And I am going to take my spoon and I'm going to taste to see if I need any salt. Now for me, it's perfect, but I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, not all of it. And I'm going to add my gumbo filé. And some people will say, oh, don't add it. It makes your gumbo stringy. Well, no, it doesn't. If you add too much, it will. But that's probably no more than about a half a teaspoon. And it's going to give that gumbo the perfect flavor. And we're adding this right before we serve it. And for those who have never had gumbo before, well, this is my shrimp gumbo. Again, you can add crab legs, you can add crab meat, you can add oysters, but let me tell you about oysters. If you are going to add oysters to this gumbo, what I want you to do is take a little of the gumbo out and put it in a small pot and add the oysters that way. Because what happens is oysters don't last. You've got to add it to your gumbo and eat it right away. And it will, if you refrigerate cooked oysters, first of all, they're going to get tough. And it's going to turn your gumbo rancid. And it will destroy an entire pot of gumbo. But we are ready to serve this gumbo. All right, are you ready? You have your bowl? Okay, we'll bring it on over. I'll get you some rice. And there are some people that add a dollop of potato salad on top of their gumbo, which is delicious. And others who don't like rice. I don't particularly care for rice, but some people like a little rice in their gumbo too. All right, well, this is my recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I will dish up a bowl of gumbo.